I was working a lot of work with Bad Boy, but it was more through Chucky Thompson and through Derek Angeletti. Like those were my guys. So whatever they did, that was involved with Bad Boy. But I was around. Everybody that was there at Howard was the foundation. You talking about from Puff to Harv to the lawyers to all those people. Everybody was just Howard people. Derek went to Howard. You know, everybody. Like so. For us, it was just the Howard Mafia. It was just people taking care of other people, but we was rocking. Like one of our guys took over the music industry.
Word. So did they ever come to you at a time where you had a chance to like sign with Bad Boys?
No, I've always been independent. I never signed with nobody. As much as people be like, oh well, you're just. I was never exclusively anything. It just got to a certain point where I was holding down so much Rocafella stuff that I didn't have to go out and search for sessions with other people. I would get done with. We put out a Jay-Z album. Historically, most of the time he came out in November. So it was like September, October. We was probably recording that. He'd come out in November, but it doesn't mean like nobody else used the studio during that time. So we was working on a Beanie Siegel or a Memphis Bleak or a Camera, and it would just be a cycle. As soon as I got done with one, I would move on to the other one, to the next one, to the next. It was just like that for a number of years. So I never really had to go out and seek other sessions. But I never signed a contract with Jay. Me and Jay to this day have never had a discussion about money ever. Wow. You know what I mean? Like we don't talk about that. Yeah, always been highly taken care of. Like I've never had no complaints when it comes to money. It's more about the being in there and being creative and the artist understanding I'm here for the betterment of your career. So I know you and I know where to take sort of your career. So we it's like almost A&Ring, but there's different sections of A&Rs. You know,
every part of.
And that's the thing. You got to know what you're good at and what you like to do. So at the same time that people are like, oh well, I want to be an A&R and I want to pick records and I want to be creative, there's also a section of it where you got to do a lot of paperwork and you got to handle budgets. And there's some people that are just A&R administrators and that's all they do is handle paperwork and say, okay, this is how much money you got left in your budget, and here's the sample clearance, and let's have meeting with lawyers all day. Some people like that. Some people like me hate paperwork and hate dealing with all that, and I'm more in the studio and being creative but still having an understanding of that. So it was sort of like a trifecta of me and hip-hop being in the studio along with Just Blaze and people like that, directing the careers of these people, and then having people in the office, because without one or the other there's no success. So you got G and you got Lenny and all those people that are in the office that are running around town kissing the babies, dealing with people that I don't necessarily want to deal with and having meetings, but that's just as important. It's like I'm making the product, they sell the product.
Exactly. Yeah. Word. So your introduction to working with Jay was through Memphis Bleak, right?
Yeah, so I was doing sessions. I ended up getting with this manager, this girl named L'Oreal, and she was an A&R administrator actually, and she was putting us on all these sessions. One of my guys was working with Bleak. He was having a baby or got sick, one of the two. And then he asked me to fill in, and then Bleak just kept calling me back, like, okay, I want to work with that guy. Right. And then naturally through doing the Bleak sessions, Jay not only is Jay, but he's also the CEO of this company. Right. So he was coming to check on Bleak, and everybody know their relationship. Bleak is his guy. Right. So through checking on Bleak, Jay was like, all right, Bleak's done, put my reel up. Record me saying this, and then that's when he invited me to come to Baseline, because Baseline was just being built. Word. So he was like, yo, you should just come work with us every day.
What happened in those sessions with Bleak that just made him keep calling you back?
It was me just not being silent. Like, I'm not just gonna sit there and go, okay, let me just press the button and record. It's me saying, yo, I don't like what you just did. That's whack. Right. You could say this better. Why don't you take this word out, that word out? What are you really saying there? We can condense that. It's like helping him. The same thing I've been doing, since sitting in Monte basement with my friends and everybody around here that rap. Right. Just trying to direct the artist and make the best record. So he had never really had that experience of somebody sitting there helping him craft the record.
Weird at first?
Nah, he wasn't taken back. It's the way you say it. I know how to communicate on every level. So it's like, I don't care if you're in a boardroom all the way down to the street corner, I know how to communicate with you. So it's a way that you talk to artists. It's a way that you draw the best out of people. That's really a part of engineering as well. Right. Your job is to draw the best performance out of the artist. Right. So sometimes you got to get them mad. Sometimes you got to stroke their ego. Sometimes you got to put them in situations to get to a certain point. Right. So it's always been natural in what I do, but it's just Bleak recognized it and was like, I want him back. Right. And then through that was when I met Jay.
Now, I know you said that at one time you was living at Baseline Studios.
Yeah, I basically lived there for a good 8, 9, 10 years. Meaning,
I thought you was gonna say months. After
no, like years. Like I was literally every day get up, go there. I may spend 2 or 3 days there. You know, don't leave. And when I do leave, it's like for an hour or two to go take a shower, come back. And that's basically what I had. That much work. We were kicking out that much work, and it was just every day making beats, recording artists, figuring out what you know. Waking up on a Saturday with me and hip hop, like, okay, out of all the state property guys, Freeway got the most records. Okay, we're gonna do this Freeway album. Okay, just organizing like that.
Right.
That was our big thing. Was like, let us make the music. They gave us the space to make the music, and then once we did that, they took what we had and tried to sell it. They never came in and said, okay, I need one of these so I could sell it.
Right.
Like Kev, Leor, Julie, the people that was running Def Jam at the time, they didn't operate like that.
Right.
They never asked us to do a specific thing. They were just the best at, okay, this is what you're giving me, Goo. Watch me sell the hell out of this.
Right.
And that's how they moved. That's how they operated. You know, it would be fun. Like, we'll make a record, we'll go in the office. Murder Inc. office was right across the hall from my office. So you just go in the office and just start blasting music and be like, oh, this is what we made last night. You know, it was like this friendly competition sort of
Bouncing
thing.
off each other.
Yeah, like, it was just all to make better songs.
Now, working with Jay, you know, how did you guys continue to build that relationship in the studio? Was it the same with Memphis, where you just wasn't afraid to?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to give my opinion. I say my opinion strong once, but then I also understand that I'm a soldier for him. I do soldiering, and people don't really know how to soldier, because a soldier can have his opinion, but then once the order come down, you got to go do what the order say, regardless of what your opinion is. So you kind of have to bow down to the fact that this dude may have, excuse me, more wisdom than you.
Right.
And he's never failed me.
Right.
So I'm not telling you follow a fool. You don't
Right.
follow no fool. But when you see somebody that is a great leader, that has a very distinct way that they want to roll themselves out as an artist, that understands themselves as a man, that is very good at expressing himself, then you fall in line.
Right.
And it's like, okay, here's my expertise and here's what I do and here's my opinion. He takes my opinion into account, but then he also takes into account this person's opinion and that person's opinion and that person's opinion. And then it's like, okay, now I made a decision. Now y'all as my team go execute my decision.
Now, it's interesting that you said that, because people like you and Memphis Bleak have been working with Jay since forever. But where did it break down when it came to people like Dame? You know?
Dame was never like really in the studio with me until later. Like, and then he was never really a studio head. He was the office guy. He was the guy in the office arguing for us every day. Like, the thing you gotta love about Dame is he was Rocafella or nothing.
Right.
And that was it. It was just like, this guy was in there arguing. He didn't care who it was, Def Jam, whoever. You see the tapes now, but it was like, that's how that man was every day. And I can't be mad at that. Like, he was team first. If you ain't with us, I'm not with. Like, he was just arguing for his artists every single day.
Right.
So his thing was more of the office side of it, and also the clothing side of it, which I wasn't really a part of. So it's like, I respect the fact that nobody can. It's the same way I'm not going over to Rockaway back in the day and telling them how to cut clothes.
Right.
Like, that's not my thing. That's not what I do.
Was handling all that.
Yeah, they was over on that side doing all of that stuff. And or Dane would do something simple like, hey, come to the studio, here go this song, Old Boy, that we just made. That's it, Goo? Okay, we doing a video to that Friday. Let's go. Just those sort of things. The music side of it was more like us in the studio. You know what I mean? And Dane was the person that was like, whatever you give me, I'm going to promote the hell out of it. Yeah.
So where do you think, like, later on when Rocafella started to have their issues, where was the disconnect between people like, you know, Kareem, Dame, and
I don't, to be honest with you, and I hate. And
did you ever see that, like, once in the studio?
I didn't, because they wasn't never around like that. Like, Dame, he would come to the studio, kick it maybe, you know what I'm saying, listen to some stuff and leave. And I hate when people, even people that was involved in the company, nobody was in the meetings with Jay, Big, Dame. They would go in a separate room. I wasn't in that meeting. I'm not a busybody. It's not my business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I hate when people like have all these opinions about it.
Or
they
act
wasn't
like
even
they know.
Rockefeller.
Right.
Or they act like they know. Or they was in there, but you only saw one side of it. So it's like, if it's not your business, if you don't know, then don't say nothing. Or don't act like you was there. So for me, honestly, my job was always in the studio. I wasn't in the meetings. I wasn't like,
you ain't worried about it.
yeah, I wasn't worried about it. I'm closer to Jay because that's my man. That's who I came up with. That's who I was in the studio with all the time. And it wasn't no question like when that happened, but it doesn't mean that I have a disdain for Dame.
Right.
Dame gave me my chain.
Right.
Dame like always made sure, are you good? Did you get paid? Promoted? Blah, blah, blah. Like all those sort of things.
Right.
So I never had a problem with anybody. You know what I mean? It was just like what the effect was to the company and the artist, and you just had to figure that out. Right. After everybody, you know what I'm saying, went on their separate ways, it was like, okay, well, where's everybody going? Where's everybody roll? Only simply so I can know what I'm doing next. But I'm not a gossip dude. I'm not in people's business. I'm not like, that's just not my thing. Yeah.
So when you was in the studio, man, for all those iconic albums that you was in there for, what was that? If you look back to all them sessions, what was that moment that like gave you chills that you remember? Like,
oh man, there's so many of them. I'm a real. When I say this, I don't mean it in the like. When I'm gonna say I'm a real conscious dude, and I don't mean that in the terms of like, oh, I'm woke type of thing. I'm very aware of the moment, of what's going on in the moment. So it's like I give thanks all the time for moments. So like watching Cam and Jay do New York City, watching Jay do the Blueprint in the weekend, watching Freeway start, you know what I mean? And people telling me Gouda, he'll never make it, his voice is too weird, and watching him do Rock the Mic and watching him do What We Do, and just all those special moments. There's a lot of it too was me and Beans, just Beans being from Philly, we got a lot of things in common. You know, we listened to the same radio growing up. We kicking jokes about like, yo, did you ever know that Butterball was white? Nah, I didn't know that until I was such and such. You know what I mean? Just things that if you didn't grow up in this area, you wouldn't relate to. So me and Beans connected on a whole other level. He was a real late dude, and I was probably the first person around him that was like, I bet you I can stay up just as long. Like, I would stay up for days with Beans. Just days. We would maybe go to sleep for like 2 hours, wake up, buy toothbrushes, and keep going. No showers, no nothing. Like, just music. 24, you know what I mean? 7. So I just had special moments with all of them, man. There's so many special moments. Like, it's too many to count. Watching Jay just keep going and keep going and keep going. And when you think you've hit a ceiling, he finds another way to like break that ceiling and keep going and keep going.
Did you know initially that this stuff was going to be as historical as it was?
Nah, you never know when you in it. Right. You never know when you in it. You know, like, you just doing it, you making it. So I didn't know when I started the Blueprint it was going to be the Blueprint. It just was us record this song. Let's make some good. Kanye came in here with some good beats. Okay, just get to work. Okay, you just doing your job. Right. But then when you look back on and it's like, okay, that's why I take almost like a month off. When I finish a record, I stop listening to that record for like a month so that I can catch up to where people are. Nobody's heard this music yet. It's not going to come out for another.
You hear stuff like almost years.
I've been working on it. Take 444. When y'all got it, I've been working on that album for 6 months. Right. You know what I mean? I started in January and stayed in LA for 6 months. Right. So I got to kind of like not listen to it for a second. Not only just to appreciate the album, but to be on time with people. So as a DJ, I got to know when is this song picking up, when is it at its height, and when does it go down. Right. You know what I mean? I got to know when people are tired of it. Right. So it's like,
you got to be able to listen with from the ears.
Fresh ears. Yeah, exactly.
Got you. So speaking of 444, man, when Jay gave you that call and said it was time to get back in the studio, what did he like? What did he tell you was his vision?
He said, "Come to my house." It was it. Long story short, I was in LA working with Alicia. I was DJing for her, so I do like, you know, me and DJ Dummy sort of like balance that, and DJ Active. Shout out to Active too. So it's like having good friends. It's like Dummy was doing it first for Alicia. But then J. Cole went out, and he's not only J. Cole's DJ, he's J. Cole's music director. So then he was like, can you fill in? So I was DJing with Alicia, New Year's, flew home. January 3rd, I was in California working with Jay. Right. So you never know what it is. Just know, okay, we're just going to record some music. You don't know if that's going to be an album. You don't know what that's going to he could record for a week and then say, I'm not feeling it, and be out. It eventually became 444, and then you start to figure that out. You start to figure out that he's about to have this real personal album, probably the most personal he's ever done, right. And it's another chance for us to make history. And you know, I'm more proud of the fact that it's like this dude's 47 years old, 48 now, and still making relevant music. So we have the opportunity to see a 50-year-old in hip hop. We've seen 50-year-olds, but not at this level, right. Not at this still going out on the court and scoring 40 points.
Was right up to where he should be rapping at.
Right, exactly.
It really was something that the people needed to hear about not spending money in the strip club all the time, about understanding what good credit is about.
It's just about your truth. I think that's the one thing that if somebody would ask me, why is this man so successful at MC? Now I'm not even talking about his business ventures. Right. I'm just talking about at MCing. Right. Because he tells his truth of wherever he is at the given time. So if my life at the given time is big pimping, then that's what I'm going to write about. Right. But you also got the You Must Love Me's in the middle of that. Or you get, even on the first album, you get songs like Regret. Like, that's what make him different than everybody else. I'm not fantasizing this or romanticizing it. Like, I really did come in the game with 900. I really did do all that. But I still got regret. If you listen to that song, it's like I'm putting this girl on a plane with something strapped to her. I know what this could do to her life. I know what the result of these things are. 3 shots, close range, never touched me, divine. Like, I know the background of those stories. So it's like the maturity of being able to tell your truth. And then that's all this is now. Is having the first song, Kill Jay-Z, is a conversation with yourself. Have truth. Like, the truth is you need to grow up and you need to kill this ego off and you need to stop worrying about that. But in also being truthful, it's like the boy's double consciousness. It's like I'm not just one thing. So then by the time we get to Bam, the ego is tired of being kicked around, and the ego's like, yo, you need me. Don't forget, I'm the one who set this off. Me. You wouldn't know Obama. You wouldn't be in these circles. I did this. Me. The Jay-Z that you trying to kill off, my bravado is what got us out of the situation.
Right, and then mixing that with being a family man.
Yeah, so then now it's like you start to think about different things, but that's the beauty of it, is how long you gonna make I'm in the club, bubbling, I got bottles, da-da-da-da. We've made that song a million times. Now it's like, I'm looking at my daughter and I'm thinking about legacy. I'm thinking about, I want to be the oil painting on the wall 200 years from now, and y'all gonna always look up there and be like, that dude right there set it off for our family. This is the reason why we have all this. Him right there. We don't have that. You know what I'm saying? How many black families have a crest? How many, like, this is those things that you start thinking about when you get into that sphere of like, I've made enough wealth in my lifetime, and that's the difference. I'm not just rich, I'm trying to get wealthy. So I've made enough wealth in my lifetime that this is generational. I get to pass this down. My kids don't have to start at zero, like most of us had to start at zero. So I don't have to go through the
A lot of people have those trust funds.
Absolutely. And it's more than just trust funds. It's lessons and being there. Also setting your child up to be in a circle where the rest of the family and friends are also set up, and not just like, we have some people that get money, but then the rest of your family is still broke or in the projects. Or it's like, you moved your mama out. But what about your cousins? What about your best friends? Who they hang out with? What about your kids' friends?
Right, who you influence and pass you just your general circle.
Exactly. So that's really all the lessons that are on there. You got a rapper coming out, talking about his mother being gay and being comfortable with that. You got him talking about like my relation. Now, of course, yes, in a complete self-analyzation of who I am and where I am at the given point, then you're going to get a 444 song, which is like, okay, now I'm addressing everything that y'all wanted me to address from Lemonade. And I'm being honest. I'm going to tell you what it was, and everything is in the music.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Kick Down. We back with Young Guru. Let's have some good food. How was that food, man?
Amazing. The Jamaican is always gonna give me. That was incredible. Yeah, the oxtail was crazy.
Word. So back, man, to the industry conversation we was having before. Now I know that you just worked on Rhapsody's album.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so proud of her, man.
Crazy.
So proud of her. It's
Me
like,
and my boy Mike was just talking, saying that might be that might be the best female rap album.
Oh man, I appreciate it. That's a big statement, but I appreciate it. She's incredible artist, man. She can spit. It was a case in point where like Ninth was my man. It just became my friend. It was I'm very rarely do I meet people in the industry that actually become my real friends. So everybody knows the story of him producing on the Black album. But he, I saw that thing where he's trying to take care of a lot of people. So I came on to Jamla just to be like, all right, let me help you with this, because it's like so overwhelming when 30 people literally get up every day and be like, okay, design my life for me, sort of thing. He's the leader of it. It's his brainchild. So me coming on there was just like, let me help my man out. The thing with Rhapsody was like, we finally got a chance to do a major release. We took it to RocNation, obviously, because I'm gonna take family to go meet family. And that, that was sort of a thing where it was, she earned it. I didn't want no nepotism. I didn't want Jay to do anything for me just because it's like, oh, let me just hold Goo down. No, this girl earned that. And just for her to put out this body of work at this time, her first album, and to get 2 Grammy nominations is just like, I couldn't ask for more. She's incredible. She's a breath of fresh air. It's like what the game's been missing, or at least a balance to the other side of the game. Yeah.
Now, you said you worked with Nonchalant before. Was she a rap artist?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you worked with a female rap artist at a time when there wasn't like a crazy amount of them in the game.
I've been working with females for a long time. Nonchalant is who put me in the game. We went on the Fuji tour, so it's like being around Lauren. People like Rod Digger have recorded at my crib, like some things like that. Like, I just always have been around female MCs.
Is there a different hustle to pushing a female MC? Or a different way you got to handle it?
It wasn't necessarily like a different hustle. You know, it's like any other artist. You got to figure out who they are, what they want to do. But it is a little thing of being tired of people saying, "Oh, well, she's dope for a female," right? You know, that's like saying like you're cute to be dark skinned. It's like you know, it's like an insult.
It's like an underhanded compliment.
It's sort of weird, but she can rap with the best of them. So other than that, it's like early on, I've had enough experience in the game where I can sort of direct her and say to her, like, tell me the things that you won't do, or tell me where I should go. Where do you want to be? What are some of the things you want to do, and what are the things that I shouldn't do? Should I go for the liquor sponsorship or not? Should I go, you know, I just want to know where your line is at. So my job is to help you become the best you. Not too many times people try to take somebody and form them into this idea that they have of who that person is without asking them who they want to be. And that sounds like a simple statement, but people do it all the time. You know, people see one style or one thing bubble up in the industry, and they start to make a cookie cutter version of that. They roll the sheet out, and they just start making the same cookie over and over and over again. It's like, nah, you got to figure out, well, where do you want to go? What statements do you want to make? Some people are very happy with not being too popular. They make their money. MF Doom is not going to go do radio and all this other stuff because that's not his brand. He feeds his audience, and that's it. So I'm saying all that to say I was very specific with her to like say, where do you want to go? How do you want us to get there? And then I'll best design the way for us to get there.
Now, Rhapsody's path is, you know, she's just more lyrical. She doesn't. When you see so many of R&B or not rap female artists now are more pushed from the sex standpoint, or just getting surgery. They don't really even have necessarily the talent. They just have the look, and then somebody can write that.
I mean, we're in the social media age, so our record label's going to go out and sign somebody that has 2 million, 3 million followers. Like, of course they are. Right. But all these little things that people used to say to me when I was a kid, I actually try to live those things out. So when somebody says, you know, don't hate, just be the change you want to be. That's all we do. It's like instead of concentrating on saying why you don't like something, it's like, okay, let me give you the alternative. Here you go. Here's Rhapsody. Here's great lyrics. Here's great beats. We stick to a formula of a certain aesthetic as to the way we make the beats. So it's going to be boom bap in there. It's going to be samples. It's going to be really dope soul samples. But it's also growing with the times and understanding like, okay, we're going to get Terrace Martin to play on all these joints because we need some live instrumentation. We're going to do a song like Sassy where you can, it's not a turn up song, but it takes you back to that feel of like college days and sort of like those things. That's the only difference. It's like, don't hate, just put out there what you want to see.
Word. So when it comes to this new album, Layla's Wisdom, it feels like the album was a long time coming because I think, you know, she had a couple albums she put out and some mixtapes, but it's been a minute. Yeah. You know, what was really the growing process from then to this album?
Well, the growing process is that we had almost completed the album before she even signed the deal.
Wow.
So we were just in our next thing of what, as Jamla, of what we were going to do, and Layla's Wisdom was going to be the next one of those. But in that process, we got an email from Spanish Rand that was like, hey, do y'all want to bring this up here? And I was like, perfect. Like, that's the perfect thing. So I went and had a conversation with Jay, conversation with Tata, and was like, this is where I want to bring it. I asked Ninth, because Ninth is so adamant about being independent. And I asked him, I was like, do you want to sign with anybody? He was like, I don't want to sign with anybody, but if Jay want to sign, then I would do that deal. And that's basically what happened. So we had a lot done. We signed a deal, and then we said, okay, we're not going to just hurry up and put this album out. You got to set up an album like this. There has to be videos. There has to be marketing and promotion meetings. Now, being that this is going to be an official release, we got to go and clear every sample. So what we did was we did Crown as a mixtape. We did that quick. We did that in like 2-3 weeks. So we said, okay, we're going to give y'all Crown to hold it over until we get this album done. And then we started going back in and inevitably making new songs and revamping songs. We either like switch a beat out. We actually had different beats or different things that, you know, were on that album. And then it was like, say, Ninth does Duckworth. Okay, so we were going to use that beat at first, but now Kendrick picked that one. Of course, we're going to tell Kendrick he can use that one, and we'll flip another beat. So it was just flipping beats and figuring out the best way to construct the album.
Word. So when you saw, like, the response to the album?
It's been amazing, man. I didn't expect it. We didn't really spend a lot of money making this album. And I didn't expect it to do what it did for her, like to be this critically acclaimed, to have her go on tour for the first time, seeing people like mouthing all the words, you know, while she's performing. You definitely see that flip of where she's gaining new fans, and that's my whole thing. Is like
from the underground to the mainstream.
Exactly, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to preach to the choir. I want to get more people into the church, more people into the into the congregation. So if you just keep talking to the same people, you're never gonna pull more people in.
What do you think? What you got planned for Rhapsody coming up?
Oh, we're definitely gonna drop music for Grammys. So of course, I'm well aware that there's still a whole gang of people that don't know about her, and especially the world outside of hip hop. And that's what Grammy does, right? It introduces you to whatever's outside of your sphere of type of music you make. We all do it. She has a European tour coming up after that, but we definitely dropping more music, and I have a full-length documentary on her where you'll see the process of us making Layla's Wisdom.
Okay, word. Yeah. So I really want to get your idea, man, of just how you've seen hip-hop and just the music industry in general progress from CDs to streaming now, because the way that we consume music is totally different.
Right.
You know, it's different than having to go to Tower Records or go down the street or even getting a record, or you know what I mean. Now you can just boom, pick up your phone and listen to whatever.
I mean, I've seen music go through all these stages. Even before, I saw when it switched from vinyl to CD, right? I saw when it switched from cassettes to CD, like all of those different things, and then going from, and what you basically learn is what you're actually selling. And I think where the music business messed up was that we thought we were selling a piece of plastic, and you're not. You're really selling intellectual property. The medium of which that comes on doesn't matter, as we see now. So if we take away the physical medium, we have streaming, and people, every time it flips, people complain and say, oh, this is going to kill off the thing, right? Which is not. Now that streaming is here, you see how much more people consume music. The thing is we have to set a correct rate for how much each stream is worth and what the streaming services owe to every artist. But if you think about, imagine me getting paid every time somebody played the Blueprint in a card. That's amazing. That's amazing to me. That's amazing to me that every time you press play, that's a money revenue for the artist. We just have to figure out how much that is. And it's also a thing of taking it from having to go to a brick and mortar store and buy that actual CD to now I can just listen everywhere. Everybody has a phone. So you're streaming music constantly, and it's a constant revenue service from all across the world.
What do you think has been some of the negatives, though?
I mean, the negative is this: is that number one, we lose the album to a certain degree. No, I mean just this concept of an album, because what iTunes did is say, okay, I can buy this song for 99 cents, which then breaks up my album. It also legally makes me have to redo my paperwork or think about it in a different way, because the way that the percentages are broke down is based off of albums, if you can understand what I'm saying. Only singles were set up to say, okay, this may be this one song, and I have to do a deal for this single. Now we're looking at, okay, well, if I'm on an album and my song is the one that's streaming all the time, I'm getting the lion's share of the revenue, sort of thing. It switched that. Right, it switched you having to listen to an album from top to bottom and understand it as a cohesive project. It also opened the floodgates for a lot of people that shouldn't be making music to make music, right? Yeah, which is with anything.
Oversaturated.
But that's with anything. So the cream of the crop has to rise, because now the access is no longer limited financially to the top people. And that's what when I say with anything.
In your house with a mattress behind you.
But you could also go out and buy a camera and think that you're a photographer without studying photography. You can pick up a microphone and think that you're a journalist without studying journalism. You can try to write articles without being a writer. You know, all of these things people have access to now, which means that the people that are very serious about it have to be the top of the craft. You have to stand out on top of the average people that are doing it on a hobby level, right? Just on a hobbyist level. So that's the main thing. It's flooded. So before, you went through all this process to say, okay, I'm going to go find an A&R and I'm going to give him my music. And hopefully, once you signed that deal, you felt like you broke the barrier to the access, right? Now it's like, that's not the key. The key is, how do I get above the noise? Because there's all this noise of people every day It's music. How do I get above that?
One thing I noticed is that you have people that like blow up real fast, like overnight on the internet. Like for instance, you got, I don't have to name a bunch of people, but you get that one single that's popping, and then you never hear them.
Right, absolutely.
And for somebody like you who listens to artists and is always looking probably for somebody to mentor, is that something you look for? It's like this needs to have longevity.
Yeah, I'm in the long haul space, so I'm not looking just to be in that hot moment.
Social media.
Yeah, and it's cool if you come out with a song and it's like hoverboards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? 2 years ago, every shop had hoverboards, and then it's like at a certain point you're gonna realize, okay, now I gotta stop selling this hoverboard. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like whatever those little things that become cliche, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna make this quick little money off these hoverboards, and then after that, I know it's gone.
If you could explain that to like an up and coming artist, like now, like the value of longevity based on just getting that quick internet hit.
The quick internet hit is your attention. But what happens after that? And see, what it is that people used to have a training period or an apprentice period, or you put in all this work like before I actually saw you.
Right.
And then you were ready for the stage. You were ready to do shows. You were ready to record albums. You studied a craft and you got really good at it. What we're doing now is we're watching people as they study. I'm looking at your homework. If you understand what I mean.
Right, yeah.
You haven't even graduated yet.
Right.
And I'm looking at your high school homework, and you're calling yourself a writer, or you're calling yourself a photographer, or you're calling yourself whatever. As a musician, you have to study what you're doing. Even if you're a rapper, you're a musician. So you have to study. And that's the thing. People that study and take this serious, they'll have longevity. But you also have to make moves for longevity. So one of the easiest way for me to put it is always vibe over money. Right? If something doesn't feel right, if it doesn't accentuate your brand, no amount of money should make you do it. That's it. That's all you got to do is think about that, and you'll be cool. But if you take the quick check, my father called it stepping over $1 to get to a dime. And it's like,
that's a really good analogy. That's crazy, yeah.
And so that's really the thing is study your craft. Become really, really good at your craft. The one thing that I love when my son said, oh, I want to start rapping, I was like, okay, cool. And I'm the type of parent that encourages. He said to me on his own, he said, Dad, I think I'm going to just take a year and write. And I love that because he's understanding you got to get good at this. Right. You got to practice. You got to put in your hours. You got to like study everything. And there's so much music, and it's easy to do now. It's very easy to do. My son, if a Tupac movie comes out, he goes out and he watches every Tupac documentary. He watches the NWA documentaries. He watches the Snoop Dogg documentary. If Prodigy passes away, he goes back and listens to every Mobb Deep song. So you could go do the history. My point is, it's all there on the internet. It's all there for you to study and to figure out how people made those records.
Do you think the internet has kind of messed up artist development? Because I know before in the past, you would find the artist and they would put him through a process, like you would say, you had to learn and to see you do stuff. They had to teach you how to kind of to write a rap, to create a bar, create a song.
Well, there is really no artist development
now
at this point.
There's no budgets for that.
What's happening is the artists are developing themselves. Right. And then once they get a buzz and once they get enough following, then the record label comes in and says, oh, this person's hot. So the type of A&R that would like go to a bar and see a band play and say, I really like this band. I want to sign them. That's not really happening that much. Now it's like, what's your numbers? How many followers you got? And again, that's not necessarily leading towards that person developing. So you still have to have those people that, I think the last person that really did that in the industry, and it's so sad that we lost them, is Yams. Like Yams was the one developing that crew and was like, okay, here we go. We about to have another.
He had the foresight to see.
He was just going to be another, like one of those guys, a Puffy or a Irv Gotti or something like those classic guys that develop crews. He was about to be another one of those. But that's the last time I really saw somebody sit down and be like, let me have the foresight to design my crew and to push these people and to get them in the right position.
Bob, you could tell they didn't just blow up off of the internet.
It was developed.
They got the area, and they got the area around that, then they took over the world. Word. And then they did it from a standpoint of knowing how to market themselves when it comes to the clothing.
Which was all Yams.
Shout out to Yams. Rest in peace to Yams. So if I had to ask you, like, for the local, because Delaware, man, we're a small state. And we have a lot of good talent, a lot of really good rappers, musicians, we're all over the map. But really, Delaware is getting to a frustration point I see online where artists just kind of ready to see something happen.
Yeah.
We got a few people in the industry like Sap and a few people that are doing stuff, but we don't have a lot. And somebody like you can offer advice to an area that may not be in a big market.
The number one thing is you got to cut the crab in the barrel mentality. That's the number one thing. Or thinking like, oh, it's got to be one person or put this person out. Like the way hip hop is about adding value to things that people think are worth nothing. That's really what hip hop is about. And the prime example is, it's not the MC and how dope his rhyme is that adds value to him. It's someone outside of that person going, yo, that's really dope. And then the next person is going to go, that's really dope. And then it's going to build up. If everybody supports and holds each other up, you add value to people.
Wow, that's the truth.
That's really what you do. So then outside people will start to say, oh, this is the guy bubbling in Delaware. Versus like, oh, I got these many followers, this is my movement over here, I don't really mess with him because he from this side. You got to all support each other, because then other than that, it's just this crab in the barrel pulling each other down thing. And
that's what's happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people just constantly putting this person, this and that person,
right.
that, you know what I mean? Right. And at the end of the day, nobody gets a shot.
Right. And you have to like literally decide what you want and where you want to go with it. So then you could take the whole scene and promote the scene versus just promoting one person.
If you had to give like an artist just advice on when it comes to marketing themselves, when you come from a small market, you know, what would you
get up and go to the big markets, dominate this market, right? But you're not that far from Philly, you're not that far from New York, you're not that far from DC, you're not that far from all these places. You got to get up and go. You can create your own little like Chitlin Circuit run that you could go on and start promoting your music. How many times have you got up and gone to SOBs in New York and started handing out your music and being at the right places? That's nothing but a bus ride. It's nothing but a train ride. It's nothing but a car ride. Like, start going to all these different places. That's what you really got to do, to start promoting yourself everywhere.
A lot of these artists think they can just do the social media.
Right, but how many people are on the social media? Like, let's be realistic. If you got, I don't care, 100,000 followers, right? That's not enough for you to sustain a career. It's just not enough. You got to get people engaged into what you're doing. It's not just about how many numbers you have. It's how engaged those numbers are. If you get what I'm saying. Yep. Once you get those people engaged, then you can do
real fans. Like, literally coming back every day.
Meaning, who's going to purchase your music? Exactly. Who's going to stream your music? Who have you impressed to that point where they say, I'm a fan of yours, I'm going to buy your music?
Y'all heard it here first, man. Guru giving them gems. Better take note. So really, man, last stuff I want to get to is, like, you talk about your photography, man. That's something I've noticed on your Instagram that it's a big part of. Now, explain exactly what do you call it?
A Leica. Yeah, like, it's just a certain brand. Like, I just got into photography because I needed a different stimulation. Like, I'm so auditory. Everything is music for so long. Yeah, and it's like now I'm getting into the art of photography. I'm getting into studying. But my biggest thing was, I don't want you to like my photography because you like my mixes. It's two totally different things. And I wanted to start at the bottom and show real photographers that I'm studying photography. So I started, like, it was funny, like, people see me in B&H at all the talks, and they be like, "Goo, what are you doing?" I'm like, I'm learning. I just go to B&H and they have really good, like, presentations about art and about photography and about composition and about lighting, and deciding what type of photographer I want to be and who to study. So I go back and study all the greats and the Cartier-Bressons of the world, and like Sebastian Salgado is my favorite photographer. But not only just the classic people and the people at like Magnum and all those classic things, but the up-to-date people, the guys that are on Instagram and girls that are on Instagram killing it right now, that aren't part of these major houses and like National Geographic and all these different types of things. And then I shoot with a rangefinder. It's a very specific way of shooting. Like, I don't know how to operate a DSLR camera. That's just not, it's not my thing.
What is a rangefinder?
A rangefinder is basically the way that 35mm was presented. So now that we're in a digital age, you know, you have automatic focusing, you have all this other stuff. I still shoot the old-fashioned way, where everything I do is manual. Yeah, everything is manual. But it's just the way I choose to shoot. It's not really the camera. I try to get that across to people, because sometimes when you shoot with a Leica, it's known as the rich man's brand, right? And it can be sometimes people just buying the camera just because they buy like a Rolex and they're not into watches, they just buying the name, right? A lot of people do that. So it's me convincing people that no, I buy this because I'm into the brand and I'm into the history of the brand. So that's really what my thing with it.
What's your thing with like the black and white photo? Because I know that seems to be your.
It's just black and whites are less information. It's easier to make people concentrate on exactly what you're trying to show them in a black and white photo, because color's harder because color has distractions, so it's much harder. But black and white to me is sort of like the thing that strips it raw down to what are you actually filming, what's the composition of this shot, and trying to get to the point of explaining to people that my subject matter for me doesn't really matter. For me, it's about light, lines, and composition. Like, so that means that a lot of people I don't like doing easy things. So a lot of people would love me to be a celebrity photographer because I'm around celebrities all the time, and I can easily, I have photos of everybody you want to see, but that's not my thing. If I'm on tour for 3 months and I happen to be around a bunch of famous people, then yeah, it's gonna creep into my Instagram. But most of the stuff that I do is street. It's very common, everyday people, everyday situations, because I'm concentrating on my composition and not necessarily like how famous the subject matter is.
Cool, man. Well, I definitely appreciate your time, man.
Nah, thank y'all for having me, man.
Thank you so much for coming out here.
It's good to be home, man.
Man, this is big for Delaware. I mean, because they really need the motivation.
Absolutely.
We got a group of young guys coming up. We got a group of guys that's doing it now.
Yeah.
And somebody like you, they get a chance to look and be like, they can make it out of here.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate you, man. Thank you very much.
And that's the thing too. They can make it out of here, but they can make it in here too. They can make this what they want it to be, and that's the biggest thing that you gotta think that way. Like change your situation the way you want it to be. And you got all the power in the world. You just gotta set the intention to do it. And once you do that and stay on that course, you can't. There is no such thing as fail. You just keep trying your whole life. There is no such thing as fail. But it's life is bigger than your city. Life is bigger than just your block. Like, the world is your block. You know what I mean? I've flown across the world and I've been everywhere that I want to go in the world because I set the intention to do it. And that's really the big thing. I didn't want to just like go to 13th grade and just be, you know what I'm saying, hanging in the same street corner. I was like, yo, I have a real intention on what I want to do. And that's the biggest thing, man. Set your intention.
I'm going to leave it right at that. It's your boy King Dom. This is Cornerstone Conversations with Young Guru. Thank you very much,
yes,
man.
Sir. Thank you, man.
Shout out to allhiphop.com. Delaware Originals, our sponsor, and 100 Do It All Radio. See y'all next time.